The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet stupid.
Very nice. I like that open. And of course, again, all the things you learn when you guest host are all the things that you don't have when you're just a contributor and a guest on the show, which I don't have my own open. Mark says something about me, but that's a well-produced intro. Belinda Weymouth, thanks for joining me on the show. We have no Mark, and congratulations on a spectacular open and lead-in to your piece. Oh, I think we need you to unmute.
That is the first time I've ever done that. I think I got thrown by your she sounded a little bit jealous of my intro. I know it's really good.
If I sounded, it's because I am. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think we better talk to Mark about this and get you one like that. Because I have to say, when that intro comes in, you're in for some serious planetary business, right?
100%. I mean, and that's it's really it's exciting, and Mark will say, and it's Michael Shore, and he doesn't say it quite like that, but it's certainly not what you have. So we'll put it on the list of things with which I have to talk to Mark about. I'm excited to be talking to you. I know Mark is a great custodian of the environment and loves talking about it, and through his history of meteorology and politics knows a lot about it, and is always excited to have you on. We do hear a lot of bad news, and it appears we have good news, and I love to lead with good news when it's there. Can you tell me why we should be speaking a little bit about it?
Okay, so it's all good news today. All good news.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. So on Monday, the EPA banned 2 horrible toxic chemicals that have been in use for way too long, and we've known that they're bad, and they've still been in circulation. So one is PERC, and PERC is perchloroethylene, and the other one is known, its abbreviated form is TCE, and it's trichloroethylene. PERC is used in dry cleaning, so people might have heard it through there, and it's also used, and people say that it's been being phased out for a while, just so you know, like California banned it in 2007, and the ban took full effect last year, 2023. And it is being phased out in dry cleaning facilities all over the country, and it's also used in auto repair as a solvent. So this has been in progress, but when you get an actual federal ban saying, okay, PERC has got to go, and there can be no more, PERC used in dry cleaning facilities. This is really big. And the other one, the trichloroethylene, it's awful. It's a degreaser. It's used in furniture care, and it's also used in auto repair products. These 2 substances are linked to immune, reproductive, and nervous system damage in us human beings. They're also linked to liver and kidney cancer, to Hodgkin's lymphoma, to leukemia, and then also, Michael, to a cancer called multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the white blood cells that I'm in remission from. So this is pretty personal for me. It's pretty huge. And the EPA announced back in June of 2023, that this was going to happen. They had this, year and a half almost of, people could make public comments and then get used to the idea, industry, dry cleaners, that this stuff is coming to an end. And of course, there are exceptions, and they're, have been given a sort of a cushiony timeline to be able to do it. TCE is used in EV batteries. It's used in refrigerants. And so there are certain things where they're being given some leeway. But the fact is that there have been safer alternatives that we have known about for a long time. So why haven't we been using them? This has been a long time coming. So it's really a big deal, and people are very, very happy about it.
Yeah, that's absolutely thrilling. And when something happens to you in your life, and there's action taken that would mitigate that for other people, it's got to be thrilling. It hasn't happened to me, but I'm sure that the fact that it's personal for you, I can tell from the way you talk about it how important it is, and that's really nice. So I'm happy on that end. Tell me a little bit about our exposure to these things in general.
Yeah. So how TCE got on the radar? It happened in the 1980s, and there was a woman. So there's a town in Massachusetts, north of Boston. It's called Woburn, and it's industrial. And people who are using the TCE in industrial plants, they're dumping it after they've used it. So they were dumping it. It was going into the soil. It percolates down. It gets into the aquifers. Then it's in your drinking water. And the awful thing about it also is it's colorless and odorless. So these workers who were dumping it vaporizes super quickly. So they were just inhaling it. And even in low doses, TCE and PERC are really toxic. So what happened was it's percolating down into the water. So the people who are then drinking that water, it's coming out of their taps in the bathroom, in the kitchen. Taps is how I say faucets. So there was this woman, Ann Anderson, and she noticed like her water, it looked disgusting. It didn't taste good.
Right.
She had to keep replacing the pipes that went from the taps, in her kitchen and in her bathroom sinks because they would rust. But the terrible thing that happened was her 3-year-old son, a little kid called Jimmy, got diagnosed with leukemia. And she found out that he wasn't the only child in that area who had leukemia. And Massachusetts has.
Is this the genesis of the Jimmy Fund? Is this
because it went to in 1980 they passed the Superfund law, and it was because of Jimmy Anderson, because they knew, partly due to him, the passage of that law, and it was about cleaning up hazardous waste sites. I don't know exactly if it's called the Jimmy Fund as well as Superfund.
I say that because anyone who has been to Fenway Park, where they play baseball in Boston, there's always an ad in left field or right field, a billboard for the Jimmy Fund, and it only says the Jimmy Fund, right? And it doesn't say anything. It's part of the Dana-Farber Cancer Group, I think, but I wonder if that's the genesis of that, if it was based on this story you're telling me, but it might not be. It just could be a coincidence that the kid's name is Jimmy in Woburn. So
I don't think so. If it's linked to a cancer organization, absolutely not, because this poor kid died 9 years later. And this was really a big deal. And the Superfund site, law is a huge deal, that you have to clean up these toxic waste sites. But so this was in the 1980s. And so for his mother, who's now in her 80s, this has been a long time coming. A long time coming. And what she did was she teamed up with EPA officials, and then there's this fabulous congressman from Massachusetts, Ed Markey. And Ed Markey is a real environmental champion. He's been great on climate change, and he really helped with the TCE, getting it on the radar, working towards this ban. So it's been a long time coming, and it's
he's a U.S. senator now, Ed Markey, too.
Yes, senator, not congressman.
He was in Congress forever and ever.
Yeah, now he's a senator. Yes, and he's fantastic. He's just so good with environmental stuff. So he's one of my heroes. And one of the so the thing about, I'll just speak personally, because obviously I know a lot about the cancer that I have. So when I was getting my stem cell transplant back in December of 2021, it was. So I'm coming up on my 3rd birthday. It's in 2 days' time. I have 2 birthdays now. So when I was coming up on getting this horrible treatment where they replace they kill all your blood cells with this nasty chemo, and then they put your stem cells, which they've taken out before they do that, back in. and they say happy birthday on the day that it happens because they're bringing you back to life, and it's pretty intense. But one of the nurses said to me, it used to be black men in their 70s who got this cancer, not everybody, and now it's everybody. And it was black men in their 70s because they were working in oil refineries, and they were around benzene and also some of these solvents. So it was much more, it wasn't an everyone cancer. Right. And then one of the stories that I read not long after I'd had my stem cell transplant was about Fort Ord, which is a military base here in California in Monterey. And people love to go there because it's gorgeous. It's sand dunes and sage, and then you're looking out on the Pacific Ocean. So it's like, man, if you're going to go to a military base, you want to go to Fort Ord.
It's the place that you pass and you say, if I was ever going to go to the military, this is where I'd want to be. Everybody says the exact same thing when they it's the Four Seasons until you see this, and this is what it looks like now. So it's just, oh man, this story is so awful. So it was used as a training base for World War I and II and the Korea and the Vietnam War. And like all military bases, there's a lot of cleanup that goes on. There are burn pits, and there is degreasing of the fuselages of planes, and there are all these chemicals that are involved. And so they were degreasing planes and, doing all the, the maintenance, the blah, blah, burning stuff, grenades and old ammunition, and using all these solvents. And they were just washing them down leaky drains. They were putting them in leaky tanks and burying them in the ground. And the horrible thing also is that the military is, maintains to this day that there's nothing wrong with the water there. There's only one military base in North Carolina in Lejeune where they have, contaminated water, but every other base is fine. Right. Well, it's not, because it's absolute, BS. And there was this young woman, Julie Akey. She went there. Oh, what happened was in 1990, Fort Ord was designated as one of the most polluted sites in all of the US in 1990. In 1996, a 25-year-old linguistics expert goes to live there. She's going to be studying linguistics, nearby in Monterey. She's super happy. She's got a vegetable garden. She's watering it. She's doing what you do with your water. She's brushing her teeth. She's having showers in it. She's cooking her vegetables and her, her food in it. And when she was 46, she was serving in Colombia, and she was in incredible pain. It was her bones. It was awful. And at 46, she got diagnosed with multiple myeloma. And there's a Facebook group now of vets who served at Fort Ord, and 400 of them have cancer, and 200 of them are these blood cancers, multiple myeloma and things. So, and I've asked my oncologist about it. She won't say, yes, it's definitive, because, people obviously are very, careful when assigning blame. But it's, this is a lot of people with cancer, and more than just the sample size. I mean, that's an alarming sample size. I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, they say that vets who've served at Fort Ord have 35% higher risk of getting multiple myeloma than the general population. So you just can't say, hey, there's not, a cause and effect here. There's not a correlation. You can't, I'm not going to say
it's not a coincidence. Like 4 cases is a coincidence. 1% higher, it might be a coincidence, but 35% higher rate of cancer is astounding.
Awful. Yeah, it's astounding. And there was one guy who's in his 70s now, and he worked there. He was, part of the team on the ground doing the sort of dirty work. And so they talk about the cohort that he was there with. There were 46 of them, and they were pilots and mechanics, and 13 of them are dead. A lot of them died in their 50s, and a lot of them had rare diseases and blood cancers. So, and then of course the military, the fact that they deny them health care, they're not giving them disability. I mean, this is just wrong. It's just,
and in a week that we're talking so much about healthcare and denials because of the murder of Brian Thompson, it's it brings us our attention to the U.S. military as well, and the denial that happens on every level when it comes to having to admit and then cover and then pay for and then mitigate the risks for those who are ill, and so it's across the board.
Yeah, totally criminal. So when I saw, that this ban had happened and that, within the next 10 years, there will be no more dry cleaning outfits using, perks, because it's bad for the people who live around there, but it's really bad for the people who work there. And that's the thing. We have to protect our workers. And you're right. This is a real win in a week when we see what's happening with healthcare. And it's also interesting because we have an incoming president who's talking about, we're going to have the cleanest air and the cleanest water. Well, okay, mate, here are 2 chemicals that are being banned. You better make sure it happens, because that's how we're going to have clean air and water. Hello.
Get on it. Right. Yeah. And that's, so again, I love hearing good news. And I think that this is we bemoan the fact that it is like this and was like this, but just as more exciting than what is depressing is when it's acknowledged and it's addressed and there are results. And I think we don't give enough space in the world to that, because you talk about Ed Markey and people are skeptical of politicians. I've said this to Mark, why do you like politics so much? Because it's about what's possible, and it is possible to exact change through politics and through, people who, like that woman in Woburn, Massachusetts, who fought seemingly so hard on behalf of her son memory to make these changes, and then they get done, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it is. And it shows you that it's possible, and that that one person joining with another person, Ann Anderson and Ed Markey, and then there's this person from the EPA who was a real champion on it too. So yeah, it's amazing. So that happened. So that was cool. And then I have a wildlife story as well, if you'd like to hear about that, which is
I'd love to hear a wildlife story. I mean, I have on my computer right now, and I know we're talking about birds, but there's a place called the International Bird Center, and they rescue seabirds and they rehabilitate them and let them out, and they have a webcam. So the webcam's always on, the pelicans are always on my screen because
I love pelicans. I love them. They're super cool. Yeah, I'm a surfer, and it's really amazing because you're sitting in the lineup waiting for your wave, and this whole line of pelicans come skimming down. It's just it's so beautiful. So I'm gonna,
No, it must be so cool. I'm not a surfer. I grew up in New York City. We don't surf there.
Well, some people do if you're prepared to brave that water.
That to us, actually, Belinda. So growing up in New York is when you would. Once you got past the age of being scared and trying to be cool, if you rode between the subway cars so that you're outside, you're not, you're allowed to be there, but you wouldn't want to be, and it's scary as hell. But that was what we called surfing. It was called subway surfing. We would do it, and you learned that, that, oh my God, Damon subway surfed. What? He subway surfed him, and that's what we'd do.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother level in comparison.
There's a lot of pelicans and not a lot of sky. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, but still cool. Cool, Michael. Okay, so I'm going to talk about land birds. I'm going to talk about the California condor. So in 1987, the condor was basically extinct. There were 27 of them left in the world, and they're still critically endangered. We have a total of 561 in the world, and 344 are in what they call the wild free flying population. So last week I was up in Pinnacles National Park here in California, and it is one of the locations where the condors that are now bred in captivity are released into the wild. Yeah, and I asked Albert to bring up this page because they're really wild-looking birds. They're our biggest land bird. Their wingspan can be 9 feet 8 inches, and they weigh 26 pounds, which is big for a bird. They're carrion feeders. So as you can see, they eat, dead animals. They have no feathers on their head. That's for sanitary reasons. They start out with these gray heads when they're young, and then the older they get, the more yellowy and orange they get. And orange means that they're at breeding age. And they are really spectacular animals, and the fact that we've been able to, bring them back from the brink, they're still not, as I said, they're still critically endangered, because here's the thing, 554 birds, that's not a lot of birds.
Right.
And the thing, the 20th century was terrible to them. So there was habitat destruction, DDT, agricultural chemical got used, animals would, eat it. They would, the condors would eat them, and there would be bioaccumulation because they're obviously eating a lot. That was killing them. There was poaching happening, but the biggest threat, and it's still their biggest threat, is lead poisoning. And the lead poisoning comes from bullets that are, full of little lead pellets. And when a bullet, which travels at 3 times the speed of sound, hits its mark, the animal that the hunter's trying to kill. That bullet is, I'm explaining stuff that people already know, but the bullet explodes and the little pellets of lead go right throughout the animal. So here comes a condor to eat it, and it's still killing 48% of the condors that die from lead poisoning. And
just from that, that's so unbelievable that there's that much lead poisoning. That it could wipe out a species. It's just,
I know. Look at it. Oh, Albert, you're doing so great with all the graphics. Thank you. That's really showing the story. Yeah, no, it's ghastly. It's really, really ghastly. And the other thing is, it's like, what we were talking about before, PERC and TCE, these horrible chemicals. There are safer alternatives. There are hunters who are part of wildlife conservation who specifically use bullets that do not have lead in them. Because, by the way, the lead that hunters use, if they're killing deer and people are eating venison, analysis is showing that, that deer meat, venison that is for human consumption, packaged and, on the stores, shelves, in stores, it can, even though they've tried to go in there and get the lead out, it can have lead in it too. So the awful thing is, by the time, I'm just talking about pinnacles, condors, but by the time most of them are 7, they've had to have this emergency chelation treatment to take the lead out of their blood, because they can have it in levels as high as 800 micrograms per deciliter. And just to give you, and that would be fatal to a human being, 10 micrograms per deciliter is considered too much for a human child.
And you're saying it's 80 times that. That's crazy.
Yeah, 80 times in these birds. So if they don't, you saw they've all got their big tags on them. If they don't, and I there wasn't a ranger there. I would have interviewed a ranger, but it's low season. So they just had the information about the condors outside. But I'm like, wow, catching them, putting them under, dechelating their, taking the lead out of their blood.
One of our one in the comments, just quickly, Dave said that lead shot is banned in California. Not sure about the rest of the country. Game wardens carry magnets to make sure the shot shells have steel shot and not lead, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is.
Go ahead.
Like I said, let me be in contact with the park and find out, because when they're saying 48%, are they going over to Utah and Arizona, to visit the condors that are at Zion National Park or in the Grand Canyon?
So where are they just in these 3 states? Or are they beyond that? Or they?
So they're in Baja California. They're here in the coastal California mountains, and then they're in Utah and in Arizona. So Arizona, you find them, they re-release them in the Grand Canyon, and then they release them at Zion. And we had this day when we were hiking up into the pinnacles of Pinnacle National Park, which is a gorgeous and very visited national park if people want a spectacular location to go. And if people want to see the condors,
Is it a guarantee, or is there a better time to go? Is there when do you go if you want to see the condors?
Well, it's funny because they had this area called Condor Viewing Platform, and they're supposed to come in at 3:00. They're out during the day, and they're very lazy. Apparently, they don't like to flap those great big wings. They just like to cruise around on the thermals. We did not see them at the viewing location, but we saw them when we were climbing up through the pinnacles. At one point, we had 4 of them thermaling above us. It was thrilling. I mean, absolutely thrilling. Because they've got this cool white feathers on their under side of their wings, and it's just magnificent. I mean, you can't tell when you're that far below them that it's 10 feet wingspan almost that you're looking up at, but it's still completely spectacular and beautiful.
So you were saying you were up there, and when you were up there, you saw 4 of them. You said
4 of them. So we were up there midweek, which is really lovely because there are less people. And then we just, we were in the right spot at the right time. And this viewing station where they come back into their nests, and that happens at 3:00 in the afternoon. Maybe if we'd waited longer, we were there at 3 and we were like, okay, condors, come on. Yeah. And because we'd already seen them up above, we didn't stay maybe as long as we could have at the viewing platform. And I don't think in any national park they guarantee you're going to see the animals,
No, of course not. But 3 p.m. you were there and you saw them, right? So
well, yeah. Early in the day we saw them up higher, and they have. I think there are 44 or 45 of them at Pinnacles. And the thing that's good about Pinnacles is it's not a huge national park, so it's smaller. But one thing also is they have turkey vultures, they have other birds, and turkey vultures look quite like condors. So you might be seeing a bird that you think is a condor, it might not be. But hey, you can still come home and say you saw a condor. In my book,
in that case, you lie. I mean, that's obvious. Like, if you go up there, you put in the time, you're up there.
You see a big bird. It's a condor.
Big bird. I saw a condor today. Yeah. No
question. Exactly. That's how you do it. Yeah.
All right. Good. Melinda, it's just great to hear 3 good things. And I think on behalf of the show and everybody who watches it more than anything, we wish you a happy birthday, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
You had 2 birthdays, and now you're only 3, which is great because you have, we'd all love to be 3 again, right? not at all.
Yeah, maybe. It feels good. It's a nice counterbalance to my actual weight. Age.
Weight. Yeah, I'll take age. 3. Yeah, I would like to. That average is always good. I appreciate the time. This was really a pleasure. I am, in fact, envious of your jingle and your intro, but I don't hold that against you personally. And I just wanted you to know that I don't, because this was a lot of fun. So that's the planet, stupid. Right?
More.
It's the planet, stupid. No. It's the planet, stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.